Last night, I did something that I can't believe has finally happened.
Look closely at Tobey Maguire's dick.
Went to go see Superman.
Hey y'all, it's John Roca here with my out of the theater reaction for Superman. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I don't know what to tell you. I loved it.
I've seen Superman. One word that keeps coming to mind is magical. I mean, straight up, I'm gonna tell you guys off the bat, I love this movie. This is the movie the world needs right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we literally just got out of watching the newest Superman movie from director James Gunn.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a spoiler-free review of Superman.
Internet, hello you absolute lovelies. I am just walking out of the very first screening of Superman. I have now seen the movie that for a year I have tirelessly worked on and talked about and promoted, having not seen the film.
What? What the fuck?
And promoted, having not seen the film.
I'll just say it. It's my favorite Superman movie I've ever seen. You could accuse me of recency bias. You can say it's hyperbole, call me a shill. I don't give a shit.
I'm Greg Alba with The Real Rejects. I'm trying to play it cool. I'm trying to act like I'm not ready to piss my pants at any moment right now, because this is one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. I'm gonna go talk to James Gunn, one of my favorite filmmakers, for like 5 minutes. My heart's racing. I suffer with anxiety disorder and it's only getting worse.
He's a legit nerd. He's a legit nerd too.
James, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really want to convey how much this movie meant to me halfway through this movie, where it just hit me. I think it was like being kind is punk rock. I was like, that's my Superman.
Yeah, well, I love that, man. I love that. I appreciate it. He's my Superman too.
Yeah.
First off, some general thoughts. Here is what I wrote down after initially seeing Superman at an early press screening and what I tweeted out last night as the social media embargo lifted. James Gunn's Superman is the comic book movie I have been waiting to see for decades. This film shines with a sense of play that, paired with kick-ass filmmaking, superhero cinema hasn't seen this boldly served since Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. The DC universe is in good hands.
This was my idea to do, a handful of people whose stuff I enjoy and say, let's give them a little bit of time, because I appreciate it. And you
appreciate that.
Make this.
My gosh, thank you so much.
I was... Hello, motherfucker.
And guys, I'm just so unbelievably happy, because it's like when you love a character your whole life, when you look forward to a film like this, which we have been talking about for years now, it feels like such a huge weight off of your shoulders, or sigh of relief when the film is actually great and it lives up to the hype, and you're just like, everything led to this and it paid off.
Well, James, we're here, Brazil.
I can't believe I'm talking to Soups, the actual real life Soups.
The actual real Soups.
I can't believe I'm saying this, guys, but come with me to the set of Superman.
The people have spoken. I put this out on social media. We'll bring it up right here. As of right now, 85%, which I believe is a number you called out yesterday, Rob. I predicted 82%. You predicted 85%.
Settle down, yeah.
People like Superman. It just is what it is. There are going to be some people out there that try to paint a narrative that it's divisive. It's not divisive.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
How was the movie? Well, it turns out James Gunn's Superman is Superman's James Gunn. I think this is going to be a film where you either love it or hate it, and I am right in the middle. I am completely apathetic. I walked out of the theater feeling nothing, which is a complete failure for a Superman movie.
The problem, though, is that it's not a particularly good Superman movie, and a lot of that problem stems from James Gunn himself. I think it's about time people stopped worshipping this guy like he's some cinematic messiah sent down to save Hollywood.
Superman, first of all, what are my thoughts on it? I could not stand this movie. I did not like this movie at all.
That was one of the dumbest, stupid superhero movies I've ever seen, and I've seen Thor: Love and Thunder.
James Gunn's Superman is the worst fucking movie that's ever been made.
What we can say with some certainty is that as a first page in a first chapter, Superman is a disaster.
But, guys, no one who is negative on this film is being negative enough. This is, and the words came into my head as I was watching it, this movie is an unbelievable disaster.
And according to box office data that's now come in, Superman has now passed the break-even point.
The budget for the movie was $225 million, a very high budget, and then marketing costs, about $135 million. Big movies like this spend about 60% of their production budget on their marketing budget. So all in, the movie cost $360 million to get into theaters. Gross would be about $750 million. But the studio doesn't keep every dollar that it gets from the box office.
Even going with the $308 million before taking the other expenses into account, Superman's net falls below the $350 million Warner Brothers spent on the production of the film and marketing. And there you have it, folks. There you have it. The film's theatrical run was financially unsuccessful. I think that's beyond doubt.
We got to go over one more time about what the definition of a flop is, because even if you like a movie, that's fine. I actually liked Fantastic Four, and I gave Superman a 6 out of 10. I like Superman. He's all over the thing over there. It's fine. But that doesn't mean it's made its money back. And if you haven't made your money back, or if you haven't even broken even,
He's a flop.
Use a floppy.
It has been entertaining to watch its most ardent supporters predict $1 billion when I started making this video, and now to be found celebrating a $600 million haul while deciding that the concept of inflation was invented to make the movie look bad. I know, I'm sorry, I know Man of Steel was terrible, but it did make more money.
All right, Random Updates writes, Variety, 562 million break even. Can it hit past it? You know what? I actually think I'll be honest with you. I think the break-even point is a little bit higher than that. I think it's going to be closer to 600 million. That said, can it get there? Yes. But as I've been saying for 2 years, it doesn't need to.
What?
Promises made, promises kept. Let's get right into it, shall we? The film opens on a wide shot of a polar landscape, and we are given an opening text crawl to disseminate what I'm sure is vital information to the plot. 300 years ago, the first superpowered beings known as metahumans appeared on Earth, ushering in a new era of gods and monsters. Wow, okay, that's a pretty significant chunk of world-building information in the opening seconds of your film. Must be pretty important for the audience to know this before enjoying this movie, or they wouldn't have bothered. So, what does all this mean? It would seem that this new DCU is setting a hard cap on just how far back in Earth's history they can tell stories about superheroes and supervillains. And they've decided that 300 years is as far back as they're willing to go. So, 1725? Not a lot of wiggle room there, especially when you consider characters with a level of immortality like Vandal Savage or Ra's al Ghul. Not to mention all the magical human beings native to Earth who go back hundreds of thousands if not millions of years. I suppose it would be helpful to narrow down what they mean by the term meta-human. Metahumans were first introduced into DC Comics during the crossover series Invasion, in which a group of hostile aliens known as the Dominators determine the Earth to be a major threat that must be destroyed due to the fact that a certain number of people are born with a genetic marker that might give them latent superpowers when activated by high stress or other environmental factors. A metahuman is defined as a human being who has a meta gene, a genetic mutation which when activated can give them superhuman powers. The activation can occur through different methods, including high levels of physical trauma, chemistry, and magic. The term metahuman was first coined by the alien dominators, and it has been used to describe any human being with what are commonly described as superpowers. Okay, so a metahuman is a human being with superpowers. Gotcha. So presumably this would exclude aliens, gods, cyborgs, monsters, magic users, and any other kind of non-human superpowered character who already has a different explanation for their powers. But that would only be true if you were someone who reads and cares about comics, which of course James Gunn does not.
Can you describe to me what a metahuman is in your universe?
First of all, I don't think anyone completely agrees on what the term means. Basically, it's superhumans. I would not think of Batman as a metahuman, but you know what? Like Mr. Terrific and Lex Luthor are so smart. There might be a genetic anomaly happening with those guys. Lex couldn't possibly be a metahuman. Mr. Terrific, because he works with all these other things, you could possibly think that he's a metahuman.
According to James Gunn, in his new DCU, a metahuman is whatever the fuck he wants it to be, pretty much the same as his approach to canon. Well, sorry, James, but I have a functioning brain and a memory beyond that of a gerbil, so I'm not going to let you rewrite history. The important thing to know for this film is that James defines any character with enhanced abilities, even if it's just a person who uses advanced technology or magic, as a metahuman. Well, that's going to be a problem if you want to introduce any character with enhanced abilities older than the 300-year limit that you placed on yourself, like Dr. Fate, the Wizard Shazam, Black Adam, Hawkman, the Amazons, and many, many others. Unless, of course, by appear on Earth, he means became known to the general populace of Earth, which, even in the 1700s, it was pretty difficult to make anything common global knowledge. So it would make more sense if he was referring to the actual existence of metahumans and not just public awareness of them. And still, there is a laundry list of Earth native people or beings with enhanced powers who go back millions of years. I can't believe we're one sentence into this film and he's already created a massive problem for himself moving forward. Jesus Christ! Well, at least we can say from that opening sentence that this is a very different DCU than we've seen on screen before. This is a world that has existed with superheroes, villains, gods, and monsters for at least 300 years, meaning mankind is very used to the unusual and the spectacular. Which also means that the governments of the world should be well aware of superpeople and have systems in place for dealing with both friendly and hostile metahumans when and if they become a problem. Let's keep that in mind, shall we? The next line in the crawl has far less information to parse. We simply learn that Superman is about 30 years old. We also establish a pattern of threes that seems like it's going to be significant, but never actually comes up again in the film. After that, we are told that Clark announced himself to the world as Superman 3 years ago, so that's how long he's been saving people and fighting villains as a public figure. We don't know who those villains are, or the specifics of his hero career, or how the public has viewed him in this time, just that Superman has been a thing for a few years now. It also describes him as the most powerful metahuman of all. Okay, so James is just calling anyone with powers metahumans, even if they're aliens and not human at all. Also, we'll see if this most powerful thing remains true as the film progresses. Next, and most importantly, we established that 3 weeks ago, Superman committed a war crime by siding with one country against another in a foreign border conflict that had nothing to do with him. Oh, shit. Okay, I don't want to spend this whole review comparing James Gunn's DCU to Zack Snyder. Fucking hell. Zack Snyder's DCEU, but so far it seems like we're retreading a lot of the same ground from that derelict universe we're supposedly rebooting and trying to distance ourselves from. That universe had metahumans dating back several centuries and a Superman who crosses international borders to enforce his own brand of justice willy-nilly with no government authority or concern for the consequences of his actions. In addition to that, as retaliation for Superman's reckless interference, a Baravian superhero called the Hammer of Baravia just attacked Superman in Metropolis. Okay, back up a second. Superman, a non-government affiliated American superhero, illegally entered a foreign country and attacked that country's military. Then, that country sends their seemingly government-approved superhero, aptly named the Hammer of Baravia, as an equivalent response to a private American citizen with superpowers essentially committing an unprovoked act of superhuman terrorism in their nation.
by having him commit another act of seemingly government-sanctioned superhuman terrorism on American soil. Holy shit, man, we're barely a minute into the film and we already have a superhuman World War III on our hands, and it all happened off-screen. It's like a whole movie happened before this one even starts. What else are you gonna throw at us through text? Finally, the most important fact is revealed. 3 minutes ago, Superman lost a battle for the first time. Okay, hold it right there. I'm sorry, I know we haven't even started the movie properly yet, but we already need to rewind as far back as the DCU's canon extends, which is going to be more arduous than you probably realized. Peacemaker Season 2 is out and finished now, and it has revealed some very important details about what James Gunn considers canon to his new universe, regardless of what he tells us in press statements. Short answer, it's pretty much anything he's written for DC so far, which is a huge problem, as the first thing he wrote for DC, which he still refuses to let go of, was The Suicide Squad, which in no uncertain terms is a direct sequel to David Ayer's Suicide Squad. This is confirmed in Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 3, in which Joel Kinnaman reprises his role as Rick Flag Jr., both in a flashback from Peacemaker's original universe, which was originally part of the DCEU, and the alternate universe discovered by Peacemaker in the first episode of the new season. He also makes a reference in the flashback to his at-the-time current girlfriend whom he is cheating on with Amelia Harcourt, Dr. June Moon, aka the Enchantress, who appeared in the David Ayer Suicide Squad film. This means that both DCEU Suicide Squad films are still considered canon to the new DCU. Further proof of this is found in both Peacemaker Season 1 and Creature Commandos, where the death of Rick Flag Jr., the mission on Corto Maltese, Project Starfish, the survival and continued presence of Weasel, and the public exposure of Amanda Waller's activities are all referenced as important events in the canon of the new DCU shows, which are Creature Commandos and Peacemaker Season 2. This makes it clear beyond the shadow of a doubt in my mind that James considers all of his previous work on DC projects canon in the DCU. Now, you may be asking yourself, why is that a problem and how does it relate to this Superman movie? The answer is because that final line about Superman never losing a battle till now is a lie. The Suicide Squad is canon. I think James has done a pretty concrete job of cementing that fact. Do you remember who the main character of that film was? A man named Bloodsport.
Who the fuck is Bloodsport?
Robert Dubois, a world-class marksman. In his hands, anything is a deadly weapon. His father was a mercenary who trained his son to kill from the moment he was born. He's in prison for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet.
So, unless you do not consider being shot and put in the hospital losing a battle, I'd say this is definitely not the first time Superman has lost a fight. I think James needs an assistant to take notes on his own work for him before he writes new things, because he clearly doesn't keep track of his own writing. Yes, I know that was a long way to go for a continuity mistake, but I think it demonstrates pretty clearly how little thought James gives to canon or detail when he writes these scripts, which will be important to keep in mind as we continue breaking down the film. The crawl ends and we see an object come plummeting into the earth at high speeds, creating a mushroom cloud of frost. The frost clears and we see our hero for the first time. Superman! Bruised, broken, and bleeding into the snow as he wheezes and gasps for air from his severe injuries, presumably sustained during his fight with the Hammer of Baravia. So, this is our protagonist, huh? Not a great first impression of the man who's supposed to fill us with a sense of hope, optimism, and security, but I'm sure James chose to make this the first image we see of our intrepid hero for a very good reason that will become clear as the film goes on. But also, Superman received these injuries while fighting the Hammer in Metropolis. That means while seriously injured, Superman flew all the way from the United States to our current location. Delaware was the chosen filming location for Metropolis in this movie, and it is also sometimes the stated location of the city in the comics as well.
Or imagine being able to be magically whisked away to Delaware. Hi, I'm in Delaware.
The fortress in this film is stated later on to be located in Antarctica. Without specific coordinates, the general distance from the east coast of the United States to Antarctica is 11,000 miles. That would take a commercial airliner a full 24 hours to make that journey. Superman did that in 3 minutes while severely injured. That's how fast he is. Well, hot damn, that's actually a pretty impressive top speed. Maybe I judged our hero too harshly. Though I am curious as to why he fled so far away from the fight to recover. Maybe we'll get an answer to that as well.
Superman begins to whistle at a supersonic frequency, summoning someone or something rushing through the snow at breakneck speed. The figure closes in on Superman and we reveal his faithful and loyal companion, Krypto the Super Dog! Oh boy, can't wait to see what a good... Oh. Krypto is an asshole who doesn't know his owner is in pain even though Superman is letting out high-pitched screams of agony like a little bitch. Oh boy, I'm just so excited to see this childhood icon of mine be treated with such respect and reverence by someone who clearly cares so much about Superman and his legacy. After weakly and desperately trying to convince his own dog not to finish him off, Superman tells Krypto to take him home, and Krypto complies, grabbing him by the cape and dragging him through the snow like a sack of potatoes to some very heroic music that makes it sort of feel like we're supposed to be more impressed by Krypto than the guy the film is named after. As Krypto nears his destination, a crystalline structure emerges from the snow, revealing the Fortress of Solitude. The door to the fortress opens automatically upon their arrival, implying that it knows to open for Superman and Krypto, presumably because of their Kryptonian DNA. As Krypto drags Superman into the fortress, several Superman robots rush to their master's aid. Holy cow, 3 years in and Superman has the fortress, Krypto, and a staff of highly intelligent AI-driven advanced robots. So, did he build all of this? Or did it come from his ship? Did Superman build the robots himself? Is he a genius? Maybe we'll get these answers later on. The robots lift Superman off the ground and carry him further into the fortress. Superman thanks them, and robot number 4, played by the only robot actor in Hollywood apparently, Alan Tudyk, spews some cringe James Gunn humor out of his fake mouth.
No need to thank us, sir, as we will not appreciate it. We have no consciousness whatsoever, merely automatons here to serve. Meet 12. She's new.
He looked at me.
Get it? It's funny because he said they're emotionless robots, and then the girl robot felt emotions because she's got a robotic, non-emotional, non-girl crush on Superman.
Classic.
Number 4 then says he has put on the message from Superman's parents, Jor-El and Lara, to soothe him? What? Is this like a regular thing? Because he said he had this ready to go before Superman came into the fortress. He listens to his parents' message to soothe him? Is he an infant? He needs a baby monitor with his mommy singing him his favorite lullaby so he can take a nap? Ugh. Anyway, Giant Bradley Cooper and the hooker from Westworld speak a soothing message to their son in Kryptonian, which number 4 exposits directly at all of us in the audience and nobody else that the message was damaged in transit from Krypton and only part of it is playable. Oh boy, I wonder what mystery lies in the second half of Chekhov's alien Hallmark card hologram. Number 4 then translates what's being said in the message.
We love you more than heaven, our son. We love you more than land. Our beloved home will soon be gone forever. But hope vitalizes our hearts, and that hope is you, Kal-El. We have searched the universe for a home where you can do the most good and live out Krypton's truth. That place is Earth. And the rest of the message is lost.
Oh, how nice. I sure hope they didn't say anything horrible that completely contradicts that in the part that's conveniently missing. Putting aside for a second the obvious setup, this is hands down the worst expository dialogue I've heard in a very long time, and that's due in large part to how little we know about these miraculous robots. How did Superman acquire such advanced machines? If Superman built them himself and programmed them to speak Kryptonian, then he must also speak Kryptonian, thus removing the need for number 4 to translate the message out loud. He certainly wasn't doing it for number 12 just because she's new, despite that bit of setup, because if number 4 speaks Kryptonian, then they all do. It would be ingrained in their base programming. If Superman did not build them, however, then how did he get them? Did they come with him in the ship? Did the fortress create them? And again, if so, that means there exists some program file either on the ship or in the Fortress's computer with the entirety of the Kryptonian language recorded onto it. Could Clark not have learned his native language in the last 3 or, hell, even 30 years, depending on how long he's had all this amazing Kryptonian tech? Or even just enough of the language to understand what's being said in the message? In fact, I would say by default of how many times he's heard the words in both Kryptonian and read out by number 4 in English, he definitely remembers what the message says. The film confirms later he considers it a core part of who he is and why he does what he does. There's no way he hasn't memorized the message by heart. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, by the way, this scene does not confirm in any fashion that Clark does or does not speak Kryptonian. That's just how it comes off in the scene, that number 4 is translating the message in real time for Clark. Which, by the way, does that mean that number 4 has to read out the message to Clark in English every time? Why wouldn't he reprogram the file to have Jor-El and Lara's words dubbed over in English for Clark? Either way, whether or not Clark speaks Kryptonian, this is an absolutely insane way in-universe for Clark to consume this message that, according to number 4, he listens to regularly. This is only done this way to translate to us, the audience, the information contained within the message and to let us know there is more coming. What an absolute clunk machine of a scene. The robots get Superman to some sort of table and continue to communicate out loud and unnecessarily all the things the audience needs to hear, like the exact nature of his injuries and the solution to healing them. A healthy dose of yellow sunlight. The fortress spins to face a spot in the sky where the clouds are conveniently opening up right at this moment to let the sun in, and then a big ridiculous magnifying glass descends from the roof to burn the shit out of Superman like the bug man that he is. The robots hold him down as he writhes in pain from the healing power of the sun? And he screams like a little bitch for the second time in the first 6 minutes of the film. What the fuck are we doing here? Why is this how he needs to heal? Generally, if Superman needs a boost from the sun, he just flies up into the sky above the clouds, or sometimes into space. Why did he not do that in Metropolis, where he left behind a deranged, superpowered villain who still poses a threat to the innocent people around him? Is this another lore change? Is this the only way Superman can heal, with this comically oversized magnifying glass? I sure as hell hope so, otherwise it would be really irresponsible to run away from a fight with a supervillain while civilians are still in danger. Superman, looking very strong, falls out of his chair like a drunk toddler, and number 4 tells him he is only somewhat recovered, 83% to be exact. Then why the fuck didn't you heal him 100%? This ain't a fucking video game. What the hell does 83% restored to health even mean? Are his bones and internal organs only 13% broken and perforated now? Superman says he needs to return to the fight that he willingly ran away from, as though going back will somehow make him brave, and number 4 points out that he just got his ass whooped at full strength. This Hammer guy must be one tough son of a bitch. Superman is shocked by the damage to the fortress from the unruly piece of shit superpowered dog he failed to train and tries to blame it on his robot butlers, who respond with more very flat and contradictory humor about not having emotions. Krypto bites and nips at Superman's cape and feet, which he can not only somehow feel through both his indestructible boots and indestructible skin, but it fucking hurts him, and he begs and pleads with his dog to stop like a beta male cuck who can't even control his own fucking animal. Then his fucking foot turns into a clown shoe. What the fuck? Did you see that shit?
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that? This terrible fisheye lens James chose to shoot basically the entire movie with stretched his boot to about 1.5 feet longer than it ought to be. And trust me, the visuals and especially the CGI only look worse from here. Superman takes back off towards Metropolis as a mutilated version of the John Williams theme plays, and oh, what the fuck is wrong with his face?
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
No offense to David Cornsweet, but he needs to tell his eyes to kiss and make up and move back in together, or at least back to the same time zone. Holy shit. What is it with this younger crop of Hollywood actors who all look like they evolved from fish or extraterrestrials? Also, what the fuck are you smiling for? You just got your ass kicked and ran away! Man, this is a bad opening to the film if you wanted me to like or respect this new iteration of Superman at all. So far, all I've seen from this guy is him get his ass kicked, cry, scream, and be disrespected by a dumb fucking animal. He inspires no confidence or hope in me whatsoever. Not to mention the amount of important things that the film has to tell us happened off-screen, the completely inconsequential things that happened on-screen, and the frankly embarrassing attempts at comedy so far that have served only to make me see the titular hero of the film as an absolute joke. Honestly, given what happens next, this entire opening sequence could be cut from the film and you would lose absolutely nothing. I'll explain why in a minute. We finally cut to the action that matters back in Metropolis, where we see the Hammer of Baravia threatening civilians and explaining why he is attacking the city, as a direct result of Superman interfering in foreign affairs. We also see that it is very bright and sunny in Metropolis. You know, that thing that heals Superman and gives him his abilities? So why did he fly all the way to Antarctica to heal instead of just flying up? This is a disturbing new trend in blockbuster films, lack of directional compass.
They can't activate their shields until they leave atmosphere.
Which isn't easy on Exegol. Ships that size need help taking off. Nav can't tell which way's up out there.
Can't tell up! Up! Up is up! You go up! It's the opposite of down! Away from the ground! Just go up!
Iron is iron?
Yes, dude.
What's its form?
Iron.
We then immediately spoil the reveal by cutting to a control room full of technicians and Lex Luthor, who tells the Hammer that Superman has returned, confirming before we even have time to doubt it that the Hammer works for Lex, and that this entire Baravian conflict was orchestrated by him. So why toss on a complicated layer of political misdirection and manipulation if you're not even going to let the audience believe it for more than a few minutes? This already seems unnecessarily complicated, and we haven't even gotten to the full breadth of Lex's plan yet. Holy fucking big head, what is that? Stop doing that!
Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
These shots are fucking atrocious. Who is responsible for this? Oh dear god, it's the same cinematographer who did The Flash. One of the best superhero movies James Gunn has ever seen. Lex and his team of technicians direct the Hammer on how to beat the crap out of Superman, and we get another Oscar-worthy scene of blatant exposition to tell us exactly how this works.
It's like he knows Superman's every move before he makes it.
He does. He's been studying him for years.
He's developed over 2,500 fight moves for any situation.
Oh, what in the absolute crusty fuck are you talking about? After years of studying Superman, Lex has devised a list of 2,500 fight moves with designated call-out signs designed to counter Superman's every action. He implements these moves by having a series of drones hover around the Hammer of Baravia and watch the fight as it happens, which sends the feedback to the monitors in Lex's control room, where Lex watches in real time and determines himself which move is the best choice to use moment to moment. He then calls out that move to one of his technicians, who then have to type the code designation of the desired move into the computer, which sends that code to the HUD on the Hammer of Baravia's suit, who then has to remember what the move is and perform it, all before Superman can react to what he's doing and counter it. Are you fucking kidding me? I hope, based solely on how long it took me to say all of the steps in that process, that this fight system Lex has devised is probably the dumbest fucking way I've ever heard for a super genius to outmatch a superhero. There are so many stages to Lex's response to Superman's actions which probably happen in fractions of a microsecond given how fast Superman is. The cameras have to see it, then Lex has to see it. Then Lex has to think about how to deal with it, then he has to say it. Then the techs need to hear it and type it. Then the Hammer needs to hear it, remember what it means, and then perform the corresponding move, which he also needs to remember how to do. I don't know how many of you have ever been in a fight, but even with normal human strength and speed, fights happen and usually end in a few seconds. You have less than a second to respond to what your opponent is doing. If you don't have excellent reaction time to a punch, you're taking it to the face. You literally do not have any time to waste thinking about it. And that's with regular humans. With super fast, super strong aliens, the time window is probably even smaller. It would make so much more sense to have programmed all these moves and counter moves into a battlesuit like the Hammer has that has inbuilt cameras that can track Superman's movements and suggest a rapid response so that the Hammer doesn't even need Lex and his guys to assist him. He can just use the fight data in real time and tear Superman to shreds. Or better yet, just train the Hammer to memorize all of Superman's moves and all of the counters that Lex has formulated for him. Then you don't need the drones to monitor him at all. Regardless, the film has already shown us that even this shitty system was more than enough to take Superman apart just a few minutes ago, which is funny because the opening crawl told us that Superman had never lost a fight before today. We already debunked that because of his loss at the hands of Bloodsport, but that line in the opening crawl was presumably added to give us the impression that Superman is quite good at fighting. That is completely undone now by showing us this horrendously inefficient system that his heightened Kryptonian speed and reflexes should be more than capable of outmatching. Now it looks like Superman is just a complete retard if even this absurd Rube Goldberg machine of a combat system Lex slapped together can take him out with almost no resistance. Well done, James. Anyway, the Hammer spikes Superman into the pavement like a volleyball, and it hurts him really bad for some reason. We then cut to the engineer, aka Angela.
Angela. This is the 9/11 of birthday parties.
A henchgirl for Lex, who we saw briefly earlier scoping out the Fortress of Solitude. We'll get more into her and her powers later. For now, all you need to know is Lex sent her to find Superman's hideout, but the fortress descends back into the ice before she can investigate further. The Hammer of Baravia tells the people below that the US will continue to suffer his wrath until something is done about Superman. A local falafel vendor named Malik rushes to the crater Superman is lying in to help him up. He also makes sure to explain to Superman and us in the audience how and why he knows Superman, because Soup saved him from getting hit by a taxi and then he gave Superman some free falafel. Once again, just brilliant and subtle exposition. The Hammer leaves and Superman starts to follow, but is seemingly still in too much pain from his injuries to do so. Another civilian tells Superman that maybe he shouldn't have done what he did in Yaranpur. Clearly, we are setting up a conflict of moral doubt in Superman that perhaps taking rash action in a complicated international matter was a bad choice, and that maybe he should think about the consequences of his actions before he proceeds. Very interesting and heady stuff for a supposedly lighthearted and hopeful superhero film. Let's see if they're able to pay it off. Now that we are through that opening action sequence, I have a few questions for you. What information were we given by the opening text crawl that isn't also conveyed during the fight scene between Superman and the Hammer of Baravia? Apart from the 300 years of metahumans part, which is more damaging to the film than it is helpful, what was set up by the opening that wasn't also told to us just now? We're told that superpowered beings called metahumans exist, but we're also shown that because Superman and the Hammer of Baravia exist. Next, we're told that Superman came to Earth 30 years ago. We can figure this out for ourselves by looking at him because he looks 30 because David Cornswet is in his 30s. We're told Superman has been Superman for a few years. We're also told Lex has been studying him for a few years, which is only possible if he's been Superman for a few years. We're told Superman interfered in the Baravian conflict. We are told this exact same thing by the Hammer of Baravia, who says he is here because of Superman's intervention in the Baravian conflict. We're told that the Hammer just attacked Metropolis. We then see him attacking Metropolis. We're then finally told that Superman just lost his first fight, except that's a lie, he hasn't lost yet, but as soon as he returns to the fight, we see him lose it for real. Every single bit of information given to us by the opening crawl, and furthermore, the opening scene is then conveyed to us once again in the following scene, right after the title screen. Apart from introducing Krypto and the forced exposition about the message from Superman's parents, there's nothing told to us in the first 5 minutes that we're not going to relearn in the next 5 minutes. Even the bit about his parents' message will be conveyed to us in another scene not too far from here between Clark and Lois. And to be perfectly honest, Krypto is completely pointless and extraneous to the plot of this film. There's nothing that he does in the film that Superman shouldn't be able to do for himself. Krypto is just here to be an adorable doggo and sell lots of merchandise. If the film opened with the Hammer of Baravia attacking Metropolis, we still get all the necessary context about Superman interfering with the conflict in Yaranpur, and we see him lose his first fight. With the current cut of the film, we actually see him lose it twice, which makes him look even weaker and less heroic. You might even think, but wait, what about the engineer discovering the fortress? Will that be significant? Indeed, that is a major plot point, but with a throwaway line about tracking Superman's flight patterns with satellites, you could easily just say Lex tracked him to the fortress. But I don't want to start rewriting the entire film, or we'll be here all day. Let's move on.
Meanwhile,
we cut to a Luthor Corp forward operating outpost located on a beach just outside the city. We then see the Hammer of Baravia fly directly to it. What the fuck? Are you serious? In a city full of millions of people with camera phones, nobody saw the Hammer fly right to the beach and then never take off from there again? There's a fucking Luthor Corp flag and trucks and everything! I feel like this ruse already has no chance of holding up. We then see the Hammer walk into a tent in the center of the outpost where there is an interdimensional portal that he uses to pass through a Minecraft pocket dimension and then back out of another portal directly into Lex's office. What? What the fuck? I'm sorry, we need to back all the fucking way up here. Lex Luthor has interdimensional gateways and pocket universes and he uses it just to cover up the Hammer's exit from the battle? Holy fucking overkill, Batman. A cloaking system on the suit was too complicated? You had to go and crack interdimensional travel just to hide your secrets? Jesus Christ, man. The power scaling is going off the fucking rails and the movie just started. Also, you have what is probably the most amazing piece of technology ever invented and you keep it in a tent on the fucking beach a few miles outside the city? Not in a secret underground lab or an underwater bunker a few miles off the coast? If you can afford portals, you can afford better security, Lex. Speaking of security, once the Hammer enters Lex's office, he removes his helmet to reveal another mask. Who the spook is this fuck?
Ultraman! You did so good!
Ultraman? Who the fuck is Ultraman? A super person in a disguise disguised as another super disguise? This is literally a hat on a hat scenario.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
We are also introduced to another pivotal character who just introduced Ultraman, Eve Tessmacher. Eve is Lex's girlfriend, and throughout the previous scene, we saw Eve taking selfies of everything that was happening during the fight between Superman and Ultraman. The very illegal and conspiratorial staged fight meant to provoke international conflict and presumably mass death and destruction. Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our age, allows his ditzy bimbo girlfriend to take selfies in his secret command center from which he runs all of his top secret and illegal schemes.
Motherfucker, you retarded?
I really hope this obvious security breach doesn't come back to bite you in the ass, you bald. The next day, we get our first and last look at Clark the Rizzler Kent, who is rocking the modern broccoli cut that screams, I use the words no cap and straight bussin' unironically. As he enters the Daily Planet, he turns back and smiles at the front page headline on the paper being read by the security guard. Hammer of Baravia creates havoc downtown! Written by Clark Kent. Wait, why the fuck are you smiling at that? That's bad news. The headline might as well read, I got my ass handed to me twice in my own city. That's not good press for you. Oh wait, is it literally just because he wrote the article and it made the front page? You're smiling at your own success as Clark Kent, reporting on your own failure as Superman? Wow. Pretty narcissistic for such a humble hero like Superman. Hopefully it gets better from here. As Clark reaches the bullpen, he is greeted by Perry Black, who tells him he is late again, Steve Lombard, who calls him a loser and tells him his writing is garbage, Jimmy and Kat, who both congratulate him on reaching the front page, and he receives a phone call from two methed-out hillbilly extras from Ozark who are supposed to be Ma and Pa Kent. Ma screams into the cell phone like she's time-traveled from the 1930s, and Pa sits back silently channeling Harvey Weinstein. What the fuck did you do, James? One of these things is not like the others. What motive could you possibly have for taking two characters who represent the moral backbone of America and turn them into such an embarrassing caricature of rural country farmers? Tell us more how you feel about Midwestern Christian conservatives. And normally I would go on about how much he's ruined these characters, but you ain't gonna see them again for a good hour at least. After he gets off the phone, we get our introduction to Lois, who, much like Steve, questions the validity and writing quality of Clark's article.
So this guy just flew into Midtown and started attacking people, demanding for Superman to show up?
Yeah, it's all there in my article.
And I'd actually have to make it through your writing, Clark. Knowledge is worth many sacrifices. That isn't one of them.
Huh. 2 out of 4 coworkers so far tell Clark to his face that he sucks at his job. I see a pattern forming here. Jimmy Olsen, one of the only 2 coworkers who seemed excited for Clark, points out that 22 people ended up in the hospital from the Hammer's attack, and that he also caused $20 million worth of property damage. Jimmy muses that perhaps Superman made a mistake by interfering in Yarhanpur. Okay, we get it. The moral question has been posed. Should Superman be getting involved in foreign conflicts to save lives? That is the film's central premise. Hopefully we get a satisfactory answer. Lois brings up a salient point that just because the attacker called himself the Hammer of Baravia does not necessarily mean he is telling the truth. Well, hot damn! Lois is already proving herself to be a deep critical thinker, and the TV above them is currently broadcasting a statement from Baravian President Vasil Gurkos, who denies the connection outright. Okay, so nobody bought the Hammer of Baravia's story even for a second, and the president of Baravia rightly points out that there is no evidence of the Hammer being a representative of his nation, and he would know, being the leader of said nation. So what the hell was the point of this ruse in the first place? Gurko says that the US and Baravia have been strong allies for 30 years until Superman got involved. Is Lex trying to start a war between Baravia and the US? Well, it didn't work. I'm sure if that's what he wanted, he could have come up with a more clever ploy to provoke a conflict. Is this plot of Lex's actually going somewhere? I suppose we'll find out. Clark interjects that Superman told him that he thought the Hammer might be faking a Baravian accent, which Lois immediately questions how it is exactly that Clark always manages to get exclusive interviews with Superman. Oh my sweet fucking hell. Clark uses his first-hand knowledge of Superman's activities to write fake exclusive interviews with Superman as Clark Kent to get his articles at the Planet published first with the most accurate information possible because he is his own source. He also, by extension, uses his position as a reporter at the Daily Planet to give his superhero identity free positive press. Has James Gunn, or Clark in universe, ever heard of ethics or integrity in journalism? None of what Clark has done is illegal necessarily, but it's certainly not ethical, and it leaves both the newspaper and himself open to some serious civil liability, and potentially destroying the reputation of both as viable news sources. Why on earth would Clark take a career shortcut like this? Did his hillbilly parents not teach him right from wrong, or honesty, or hard work? Because generally speaking, in most Superman adaptations, that's the entire point of having him raised by Kansas farmers. If they're not his moral center, then who is? Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Lex confesses to illegal human genetic experimentation.
Ultraman. You created this man. Check this out. The engineer, the former special operative whose blood I infused with microscopic machines called nanites, which she can form into anything she can imagine.
And the bigwigs in charge of the Defense Department see absolutely no problem with any of that. Okay, question number 1. Going all the way back to the opening crawl. For 300 years, mankind has known about the existence of metahumans. For 3 years, the US government has been aware of Superman. Does the United States government have a policy for dealing with American citizens who have superpowers and who use those powers to violate international law or commit crimes? We are told that metahumans have existed for longer than the United States in this world. How likely is it that this is the first time in nearly 300 years that the US has had to answer for the actions of one of its metahuman citizens? I don't see how this could possibly be their first rodeo wrangling a metahuman, but this is the exact premise of their meeting with Lex. They seem to not have any plan or contingency for this kind of scenario. Furthermore, due to the well-known existence of metahumans and the danger their abilities pose to the general public, are there laws about private entities like Luthor Corp experimenting on human beings to give them superpowers without the government's approval? Can anyone just make superhuman weapons willy-nilly? That would be like if Amazon could make their own nuclear weapons. And the details of Lex's experiments make it even worse. Lex describes Ultraman as the most powerful being on Earth, the same way the opening crawl described Superman. Secretary Mori asks Lex to confirm that he created this man, and Lex ignores him. And Mori doesn't push the point. He should. What do you mean you created a super being? Did you give powers to a regular man? Did you create a genetically engineered human from scratch? Did you clone him, perhaps? What did you clone him from? What the fuck is Ultraman, and how did you make him? These are questions that need answers. Moving on from there, Lex shows them another man-made horror beyond comprehension. The Engineer, aka Angela. Lex says he infused this woman's blood with microscopic nanites that do anything she can imagine. Like turn your limbs into guns, or create a jetpack, or remove all viruses and illnesses from the body? Allow a paralyzed person to walk again? Repair a damaged or comatose brain? Allow a blind person to see? Lex was so preoccupied with the combat application of this nanobot infusion technology he invented that he completely didn't even realize that he accidentally cured mortality itself. If your body is self-repairing and self-replicating nanites with their own individual power supply, you don't need to eat, sleep, breathe, piss, shit, or go to the doctor ever again. You're an immortal cyborg who can never get sick or injured. You have transcended humanity itself in the first 20 minutes of the film. Lex Luthor has just confessed to the government that he can create supermen from scratch and take regular humans and turn them into gods. And as if that weren't enough, the Raptor power armor he invented and can apparently mass-produce is the single greatest achievement in military weapons development throughout all of human history. That alone would secure him every government contract he could ever want. So what are his motivations in this film exactly, and how does he plan to achieve them?
So you want the Defense Department to hire your metahumans to take down the Kryptonian? After Superman acted with violence against our Baravian allies, I think it'd be worth considering.
So Lex is pitching this super team to the government as a counter to rogue metahumans like Superman? Meaning they definitely didn't commission this program or have any similar superhuman response team already in the works. They have in fact spent 300 years not giving a shit about insane metahuman criminals who threaten the safety of the US, its citizens, and its allies, and are only now hearing out someone like Lex, who has the ability to provide them with such a team. And clearly Lex has some ulterior motive for requesting the authorization to take down Superman. We don't know specifically what that motive is yet, but we do already have a question about how he's pursuing said motivation. Lex already had Ultraman attack Superman in broad daylight under the guise of the Hammer of Baravia, and nearly killed him in his first attempt. As I've already said, I can't yet see what benefit he received from having Ultraman pose as an agent of the Baravian government, since Gurkos immediately denied any connection, and the journalists at the Daily Planet were skeptical immediately. I suppose in the short term it would give American citizens a tainted view of Superman, seeing as the perception was that his involvement in a foreign war immediately led to dire consequences for at least 22 Americans in Metropolis. But the minute Gurkos denies it, it takes some of the pressure off of Superman because the consequences of his actions now have some doubts attached to them. It may very well not be his fault that some random super person lying about being a Baravian champion decided to attack an American city. But if that lie didn't take, then what was Lex's true motivation for trying to take down Superman? I suppose for the time being, all we can assume is that it's a lucrative business opportunity for Luthor Corp to sell the government an anti-metahuman response team because they've been too dumb or lazy to do that for themselves in the last 3 centuries. The rest of the military advisors begin to give their opinion on Luthor's offer, including General Rick Flag from Creature Commandos. At least I think it's Rick. He's still played by Frank Grillo, but he looks significantly less like James Gunn's self-insert OC from the cartoon. He is, however, equally stupid.
Big Blue stopped the war. Naive maybe, but well-intentioned.
Fucking excuse me, General? How do you know it was well-intentioned? Do you know Superman personally? Do you know his politics? Could he be secretly aligned with the government of Yarhanpur? Where are you getting your intel from? You're the head of Argus and you're consulting on a matter of national security. You need to be objective here and assess the threat level that Superman poses. Yes, Lex is almost certainly trying to manipulate him here, but the case he makes is a strong one. Superman attacked a US ally with no warning and no authorization to interfere in their military movements. If that's not the definition of both terrorism and sedition, I don't know what is. In fact, I believe it's technically treason. But military veteran and leader of a covert government agency, Rick Flag, says, nah, it was a well-meaning act of international terrorism. Director Crowley points out that Lex has an ongoing business relationship with Baravia, selling them weapons, which would be a direct motivation for wanting Superman out of the way so that he can profit from the war between these two countries. If that's true, that means Lex is a licensed government contractor. You can't sell weapons to a foreign country without your government's approval. So, yes, he would directly profit from the conflict, but that doesn't mean that Superman's crimes against a US ally suddenly go away. It might be worth declining Lex's offer until a thorough investigation is conducted on both of them, but it's not as incriminating as she makes it sound. Then Dick Flag opens his retarded mouth again to accuse Lex of wanting to lock up all metahumans. Again, a straw man, but one that actually isn't as insane as he tries to make it sound given how dangerous they can be. Lex counters with more surprisingly good points.
So we're gonna lock up all metahumans now.
Look, other metahumans aren't going off half-cocked, interfering in foreign affairs. They don't have, and I have proof of this, a hidden headquarters in Antarctica that violates 12 international treaties, and they aren't aliens.
I gotta admit, he makes a solid argument. Superman is an extraterrestrial and they don't know about his personal upbringing here on Earth. To them, he's just a superpowered alien from another planet who is going wherever he wants and doing whatever he wants with no regard for the laws of the country he calls home or of any other country he decides to interfere with. That is a security risk that the US government cannot tolerate. Then Secretary Mori decides to tolerate it regardless due to the optics, because Superman is popular with the people, I guess. If you say so, you haven't really shown us that apart from Falafel Guy. You've mostly only shown us how unpopular he is now that he's a war criminal. And Lex once again points out that apparently people online are criticizing Superman more and more every day, which makes sense. Most people aren't even cool with the US government going into foreign countries and stopping wars and enforcing their will upon their leaders, let alone an indestructible alien with no government allegiance whatsoever. Lex assures the Secretary that Planetwatch has the technology and facilities to detain Superman, but they do not ask where, with what, or how. They do let us know that apparently there is 0 kryptonite left on the planet, which means it was here at one point, which is how they know it exists, but it's somehow been completely removed from all of Earth? All of it? Then why even bring it up? But also, if you know it exists, what it is, what it's called, and what it can do, it stands to reason that it has been used as a threat against Superman before, which is how you know it can be useful again. Meaning somebody has used kryptonite. Like maybe, say, a kryptonite bullet to defeat Superman? Showing us once again the massive cracks in the world building. He has definitely lost a fight prior to this film, and if you had a supply of kryptonite bullets, he'd be no threat to you now, and Lex's pitch would be denied immediately. Regardless, Lex says he has a workaround for that as well. Mori cuts Lex off and says that he needs solid proof of malicious intent before they'd be willing to sign off on letting him bring Superman in for questioning. No, that's not how that works at all. Malicious intent needs to be proven in matters of ambiguity like accidental shoplifting or involuntary manslaughter. Your intent is completely irrelevant when you violate international law and side with an enemy nation against a US ally in a military conflict that you had no authority to intervene in. I'm sorry, but this is complete bullshit already. This film is trying to paint Superman's actions as morally gray or ambiguous, and it just isn't. Even if he had good intentions, even if he wanted to save the lives of innocent civilians, what he did was wrong both legally and morally. Superman is not God, and he's not supposed to act like a tyrant. It's not his place to override the governments of sovereign nations and tell them what they can and can't do. That makes him a dictator. And with his unparalleled power, there's nobody that can stop him. If humans don't have free will, then humanity is over. I'm willing to grant naivety or extenuating circumstances if the film can back that up, but regardless, what Superman did was a mistake, and that needs to be reconciled before the end of the film if we're to see him as a morally good person. I won't hold my breath.